Hi, this is Mitch Leventhal.
And hi, this is Kathy Bucher, and you're listening to the College of Stoic Philosophers podcast.
Welcome to the College of Stoic Philosophers podcast, a podcast dedicated to exploring the applied philosophy of traditional Stoicism. The College of Stoic Philosophers is an online school founded in 2008. We at the college endeavor to educate all who would be Stoics and Stoic philosophers who aspire to the good life within the world community. Podcast episodes will include discussions of Stoic history, application, interviews, and much more, all while having some fun, fate permitting. I'm your host, Mark Sterry. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to the College of Stoic Philosophers podcast. Mitch Leventhal and Kathy Bucher, welcome to the College of Stoic Philosophers podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Couldn't be better. Thank you.
Nice.
Same here.
Kathy, where are you zooming in from today?
So I am in a small town called Poulsbo, Washington. Poulsbo is west of Seattle, over the water. I have to take a ferry to get here. And it's a beautiful fall day, no rain, which is wonderful, in little Poulsbo, Washington.
That's great. Mitch, where are you zooming in from today?
Well, I'm about 70 miles northwest of New York City, but I'm not urban. I live on a mountain ridge on a lake at about 1,500 feet elevation in the southern Catskills.
Wow, that's very cool. I'm zooming in from St. Paul, Minnesota, and welcome to our debut episode of the College of Stoic Philosophers podcast. Welcoming anybody, you don't have to be part of the college to be listening to this. We're shooting for once a month to talk about different Stoic topics, interview faculty folks with the college, and today we'd like to talk with Kathy and Mitch, two of the main folks of the college here. And so, Mitch, in general, can you tell us a little bit about the College of Stoic Philosophers?
Well, I'd first take issue with the main folks comment because it's completely volunteer run, and there are a lot of main folks among us. But the history of the college, well, in 2008, Eric Weigert, who was not a professional philosopher, but somebody who had been reading, studying, learning, and practicing Stoicism for decades, decided to create a way for people to engage in kind of a more systematic study and especially learning how to practice Stoic philosophy as a lived philosophy. So he started the College of Stoic Philosophers. This is our 16th year now. And the interesting thing about the college is that the students eventually become the faculty, and it's all done on a volunteer basis with very, very low tuition that really just covers our costs. So I became involved with the college around 2017 when I realized that I was voraciously reading everything I could get my hands on about Stoic philosophy, but that I was reading rather indiscriminately. And I became aware that I was not understanding a lot and that I probably needed a little bit of direction and curation. And so I came across the college and I enrolled, and the rest is history.
Kathy, how did you discover the college?
You know, I stumbled onto the college, but it was because I also went, like Mitch, went looking for something that would provide me more of a scholarly and organized approach to understanding this philosophy. My daughter was in a Western civilization college at the time and reading everything that was ever written, going back to the pre-Socratics all the way through modern history and philosophy. And I was reading along with her. And at one point she was assigned Epictetus. I thought I had just fallen into some kind of spell reading Epictetus for the first time. Frankly, I never looked back. At the time, I was the nursing executive and associate director of a major VA medical system in California. We were just starting into the throes of the pandemic and I found that that applying Stoic thinking to my leadership role became like being fueled every day by a good fuel source. It was at that point I went looking for something more consistent, more organized. Like Mitch, I had been reading, but it felt too random, and I needed a better grounding in philosophy in general to understand what was going on.
For folks that don't know who Epictetus is and are new to Stoicism, how would you describe who he was and what he is in regards to our philosophy?
Epictetus was a Greek slave who eventually found himself landing in the Roman side of the world, was a slave to one of the secretaries of Nero, a secretary who afforded this humble man, Epictetus, to go and start to study under the direction of Musonius Rufus, another Stoic in the Roman group of teachers. And Epictetus himself, after he was freed following the death of Nero, he established his own school in Rome and has produced, his student Arrian kept notes on what Epictetus said, and we now see those notes in his publication, which we know as the Discourses or the Echiridion, which is the handbook. And those are comments and discussions about essentially how to apply Stoic thinking to one's life. Very famous. It is still immensely popular and can be bought on Amazon and read and enjoyed. And he's a fascinating character in history as well.
Mitch, do you have any thoughts on Epictetus?
3 on Gutenberg.
Yeah.
Well, I think Epictetus is interesting because, as Kathy said, his student Arrian, who wound up becoming a major ancient historian of Alexander and went on to become a consul of Rome, made a point. He knew shorthand. The Romans knew shorthand. They had their form of shorthand, and he made every effort, he explains in a letter that's in the introduction, to record Epictetus exactly as he spoke. And so the discourses really are like sitting in a room with Epictetus or in a lecture with Epictetus. And Epictetus never claimed to be a perfect Stoic. You can imagine he's lecturing a room of perhaps immature young men, and his frustration sometimes comes through as he points out to his students how little self-control they have, or how poor they are at practicing what they think they've mastered. And so when you read Epictetus, most people I know who've read Epictetus feel like it speaks directly to them, sometimes a little bit like a stern schoolmaster or good medicine. But right. I personally feel like I have a direct personal relationship with Epictetus, thanks to Arrian's good stenography skills.
I agree. I think he's hilarious too. How when he scolds his students. I think although his lessons can be harsh, I think that his way of delivering it is hilarious sometimes when reading the discourses.
Yeah, Epictetus, obviously, as a slave, was no stranger to suffering, and but he didn't really allow anyone to whine. Consequently, he didn't have much patience for those that didn't recognize that the circumstances that present oneself is just an opportunity to continue to build character, seek virtue, and do the right thing. There were no circumstances that he found that were excuses for bad behavior or for a sort of a lack of philosophy about what life meant, and it wasn't about somehow ducking the lessons of one's circumstances. So, very powerful message.
So I have a question for you both. So let's say for this podcast here, people that are new to Stoicism or interested in it, or just random people that are wondering, what are you guys talking about? What are you interested in? What are you reading? What is this college? How would you describe Stoicism to the average person? Or let's say I would say in my other podcast, if my grandmother was listening, how would you describe what's the philosophy of Stoicism is? Kathy, do you have any answer for that?
I do. Well, yeah, I will go. I'll give it a roll. Stoicism is a philosophy that has many facets to it. It's one of the only Hellenistic philosophies that really covered a broad set of thoughts around the nature of logic, the nature of what the world is made of, which they called physis or physics, and of course how we should be in that world. Stoicism is also a very practical approach to being able to live every single day. But I think that the reason that the college is so important is that it does not shy away from relating to and trying to explain the Stoic view in all three of those major topic areas: logic, physics, and ethics. And then the fourth being personal practice. So it's a philosophy that has tenets back all the way to the pre-Socratic Heraclitus, and Thales, in the sense that it fundamentally thinks of the world as being one thing. The Stoics are very materialistic physicalists. They believe that it's infused and eminently composed of an energy, a force, which they call pneuma, that results in a pattern of logic and rationality, which then gets sort of imaged in the human itself. And that through this set of patterns and cosmic logic, that the divine spirit, if you could call it the divine spirit, although they don't believe in a transcendent God, helps us move towards fostering the good, which they believe is best exhibited in our ability to demonstrate virtue. So, and excellence. So it's all of these things. So how much more do you want in that 2-second description of Stoicism? It's a philosophy that covers a whole lot of territory.
I'll dive in real quick too on that. So let's say in the evenings, oftentimes in the Twin Cities here, I am a musician, play music, whatever. So I'm leaving for a show after this podcast. And if I'm sitting down there, like Mitch, I don't bring it up all that often. But my family and friends know that I'm very interested and very dedicated to this college. I have it linked on my website. I'm very proud of what the college does. And I'm very open about how much applying that philosophy to my life has changed my views and how I behave in my life. It was very important to me. And if they say, like, what in a nutshell, if I'm sitting there having a beer with somebody, what is Stoicism? And I would say, I don't know if this is right or wrong. Just for me personally, it would be like knowing what you have control over and what you don't have control over there. So you're talking about Epictetus. So I have control over my desires, my judgments, my aversions, my impulse to act, or prohoresis, we call it. And that just seems to lift a lot of stress off me, knowing what I have control over and what I don't have control over. Then I'll also say, like hit at nunc, I believe is the term, and that's living in the moment, not being concerned about the past or the future that much, just really, really appreciating this moment right here. And another one is living virtuously, being a good person. You know, like Marcus Aurelius said, don't worry about what it takes to be a good man. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Just be one. The 4 cardinal virtues. So I'd say, kind of break it down. That's what it is, and people seem to get it from there. And that's like the tip of the iceberg. And then you can go into all the great cosmic things, like why we think this way. But that's how I would describe it, having a beer with somebody at the Beedale Club, what Stoicism is.
Mm-hmm. At its core, Stoicism believes that virtue is the only good. And there are 4 virtues. Those are courage, moderation, wisdom, and justice, no particular order. So that all of our actions should be essentially informed, aimed towards those goals. And if one does that, ultimately, one can live an excellent life. But in order to do that, there are a variety of approaches, which are sometimes called disciplines. There's the discipline of desire, which relates to helping you know what you should want and what you should avoid. There's the discipline of action, which helps you live in harmony with others, and employs the virtue of justice a lot. There's the discipline of assent, which helps you make good judgments about impressions. and helps you sometimes reserve judgment until you have better intelligence, or maybe entirely. And so all of these require practice and constant reminder and so forth. So a Stoic, somebody who's trying to achieve that, is very conscious of these disciplines and practices in order to live a virtuous life.
Do you guys mind sharing an example of how practicing Stoicism for these years has changed your life day to day?
So I just had a recent example this very week. I was in a car accident. I was in a car accident. I was responsible for driving a demo car.
What?
And yeah, it's all true. And it has been very traumatic. It was a fabulously beautiful car. I have had to really deal with everybody's fine. There's no injuries. But I've had to deal with the fact that I could not have foreseen this. I'm as prepared as I can be for this kind of an incident, but you never are totally prepared, that it was going to result in multiple additional layers of problems, as it has been, as you can imagine, insurance companies, et cetera, et cetera. And that the only thing that I was really in charge of here was trying to stay rational, try to stay calm, and try to stay organized in my response without fear. Without having a grounding in my Stoic practice, this would be much more difficult. I get up every day recognizing that I've got the aftermath is still going to haunt me for a while, and yet I need to approach it with courage for myself. I need to approach it with a sense of justice and fairness all around. I need to have some self-mastery so I don't freak out. And I need to have some wisdom that life is a series of cause and effects that I can't necessarily see in terms of the original origins, but I can anticipate that change will be there, and that my job is to adapt and respond with virtue and to the best of my ability. And so that's my example this week. I hope.
I owe you. I did not mean.
Probably takes your breath away, doesn't it?
I did not mean to laugh when you started telling your story. I'm from small town Wisconsin originally, so when you say the word demo car, in my brain it was like there's demo derbies where I'm from. Oh. So it's like they smash together. That's what I was picturing in my head. That was what I was laughing about. So I'm very sorry about your incident.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't one of those monster trucks. It was a new car.
And another thing someone might pick out here too is that Stoics generally don't believe in cause and effect as merely a causal system, like a cause leads to a cause leads to a cause leads to a cause.
Correct.
I believe.
Correct. Yes.
I guess if we're talking this week, I'd like to give my example of how Stoicism, how practicing this beautiful philosophy has affected my life. So, as I was talking to Kathy before we came on the air here, I'm a musician, and I was supposed to be going to Kuwait to perform for the United States troops over there, and I was very excited. It was a big opportunity. I had my stuff all packed, and literally hours before takeoff, the whole trip was canceled due to the unrest in the Middle East. And although I felt bad about it, I realized that it was not, speaking of control and stuff, it was not up to me at all. I just tried to handle it the best I could, make the best out of it. Sometimes they say, I used to like old pro wrestling, so they would say, making chicken salad out of chicken shit, so I decided to spend time with my family, do some cool stuff, and then something came from it. I had the opportunity to perform at this theater in St. Paul where they moved the Kuwait show to the Twin Cities, but it went pretty smooth. I think before I would have discovered Stoicism, I would have had a lot more trouble with that because I would have felt I had more control over that situation.
Yep.
So, Mitch, do you have this weekly I mean, I could think of, and overall in life, of course, there's a zillion of them. But Mitch, do you have this week you could share?
Yeah, as you were describing your specific events, I was thinking, no, my experience, although I probably could come up with events like that, but at the more micro level, I would say there are multiple times in the course of a day where I consciously will stop an impression in place and tell myself to think before reacting or even necessarily forming a complete belief about what I'm experiencing. Epictetus said we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. I know that I consciously attempt to listen more, think less, and wait a beat before I am confident sometimes about what actually is occurring. I realize that perhaps in my pre-Stoic existence, I was sometimes maybe overconfident about my understanding about certain situations. So many times in the course of a week, I may have an encounter with somebody that in one way or another goes sideways, I'm not sure about. And I'll consciously, insert a couple beats, wait, see if something reveals itself to me externally or internally. And I think that helps a lot, particularly when experiencing the unexpected or, those rascals that always throw some kind of monkey wrench into your life, the human being type of rascals, I mean.
Right.
Kind of like how Chris, our current scholar of our college, with his very popular Stoicism on Fire podcast, says the cosmic viewpoint: stop the impression, remove value judgment, and look at it from a cosmic viewpoint. And so that is a big thing for me as well. Before we wrap things up here, do you guys mind talking about your specific roles at the college currently? Kathy, do you want to tell us what you do at the college?
Sure. I'm most proud that I can call myself faculty. It is a great honor and joy to be able to mentor students who come to the college who are looking at various different stages of their own development and understanding and experience or even educational backgrounds which prepare them for the conversations that are coming. I tend to focus on what we call our Marcus Aurelius program. That's a 4-term, a year-long program that works to help partner a student all the way through a review of Stoic logic, physics, ethics, and practice. It creates a very wonderful friendship and relationship with that student as they move through that. I usually learn far more than they will ever learn themselves. And so it gives us all a chance to deep dive into both current writing about Stoicism and also the ancient texts. I also try to be useful as somebody who looks to the curriculum itself and keeps trying to make sure that it's fresh, exciting, styles, and that it brings the best of modern educational techniques to the forum as well. And Mark knows that because we worked together many times to look at some of our course content and see if we can tweak it a little bit. And so curriculum work is really fun and important to me as well.
Absolutely.
I think those are my main roles. I dabble a little bit as a secretary for the board, but the other two roles are probably take more of my time and my effort right now.
I think invaluable roles too as well. Mitch, you want to tell us about your role at the college?
Well, first and foremost, a mentor, like all of the faculty, and that's I think where most of us perhaps gain the most personally, sort of on a routine level. But fate is funny. I came to the college as the founding scholar of the college. Eric Weigert was nearing retirement. And because I'd had some experience in helping schools become sustainable and grow, I began asking him questions about how the school was planning for the future. and he asked me to be on the board. And now, for the last several years, I've been the president of the board of the Foundation for Stoic Philosophy, which is the not-for-profit charitable organization that operates the college. So it's been an honor and a great pleasure, actually, to help the college grow and become sustainable and have systems that are resilient. Because as Eric said to me and others early on, the original Stoa, the original school in Athens lasted a few hundred years. Why not us? And so that's where I'm at. And at some point in the future, I'll go back to just being a mentor. But right now, I help out every way I can.
Thank you for tuning in to the College of Stoic Philosophers podcast. Please visit the College of Stoic Philosophers.org for information on the college, e-journal, and course offerings. Till next time, pro cop time.